Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages. Welcome, 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 and super duper happy to have you here for the PUBG Mobile Campus Championship Finals. What are words today? We got 3 rounds of action, mayhem, and strategy to be getting in with you today. First and foremost, for those of you who aren't quite acquainted as to who we are, I'm Red Eyes, your ever-lovable and adorably cuddly caster, bringing you that daily dosage of butt-kickery, tomfoolery, and all-around shenaniganism. Wow, words are tough today, DK. And I am not alone at all. We are joined by my main man and co-caster, DKZA. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's up, guys? My name's DK. My intro is nothing as exciting as Red Eyes, but I'm joining you guys all the way from sunny South Africa. So quite excited to see what the teams are going to be doing in our championship, as you were almost about to say a little bit earlier on our campus championship. So yeah, as we know, the teams of course have gone through quite a bit to get themselves to here. Of course, we have also then taken a bit of a look at the semi-finals to see how the teams were performing. I think today is going to be that exciting day, especially now that we do have the Ace of Spades in the lobby, joined up of course then by Puppeteer. We also saw bringing in quite a bit of a substantial performance alongside players there from Strangers BD, and also we had quite an exciting performance coming through from the Chicks before Clips before Chicks. So I want to see those 3 teams out on the battlefield.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we are bringing together some of the best college teams from not just the US, but Canada as well. Now, these teams have competed through some seriously intense qualifying rounds and absolutely extremely competitive semifinals to get here. So guys, before we get too much into it, let's go over some of the teams. We do have Ace of Spades, Clips Before Chicks, The Hit List, Forsaken Gaming, Dauntless, The Care Bears, Road to Death, Puppeteer, Seren, Strangers BD, Based on Bullet, Skills of Mine, Third Eye, Nucleotide Vendetta, Dark Esports, and Gods Reborn. Man, words are really coming out tough today, DK. But yeah, so I'm expecting nothing but some action right off the bat. And guys, what a prize pool we have. DK, you want to go over it?
Yeah, as we can see, of course, that first place is going to be worth $2,300. Second place, $1,800, with third place then walking away with $1,500. And of course, that doesn't stop there, right? Fourth place, fifth, and sixth also going to be awarded a decent chunk of cash there, $900, $800, and $700 each. So I think the teams are going to be quite satisfied with the award that they get for their performance out on the battlefield. But I think that is also then going to kind of result in the teams really bring out a little bit more of a substantial performance, right? Really trying to just lock in the best possible points they can find.
You're absolutely right, DK. And while these teams absolutely did have to go through some gruesome semifinals just to get here, yeah, all that slate is cleaned dry now, and we are starting fresh. And this is going to get extra competitive because this is the cream of the crop. These are the guys who actually made it all the way here. And so I'm expecting an elevated level of gameplay as we kick off our first match. And guys, we've got 3 rounds, as I said today, and that's going to be all different maps. We're going to be starting things off with the very first map brought into PUBG, of course, Erangel, moving on into the wide open desert of Miramar, and then closing the day with the lush condensed forest of Sanhok. And so yes, what does this mean, DK? We say it all the time, but these 3 different maps are completely different geographies, which means completely different strategies need to be implemented, and what works so well on Erangel may not be the ticket for Miramar or Sanhok.
Yeah, I want to say though, I was meaning to say this when we were doing the semi-final days, like one day on PMPL, I'm going to steal that a little bit, right? Some of that. I'm going to steal it and, use it out on the PMPLs as well, because, I mean, what you're saying about it is very, very true, right? We definitely are going to be looking at those different approaches coming through on each of our respective matches. But I think the main thing, and I've said this before as well, is the teams will have to try and be as consistent as they can be, right? We do know over in the semi-finals, they only had 3 matches. Where a change is now coming into the finals is this: they've got 2 days of 3 matches. So there is a little bit more leniency here, but still you want to see that consistent performance coming through as the teams make their way through all our matches.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, there is 2 days of events going on here, 3 matches a day, which does afford a little bit more wiggle room to our participants. But guys, when you really think about it, 6 matches to determine a prize pool like that, it's not a lot. So every match absolutely is still going to count a whole lot.
Yeah,
And
everything is gonna count.
there's a little bit of a opinion difference between me and my co-caster, so if I interrupt, please forgive me. But guys, we are going to be kicking things off with Erangel, as we said. Now, what exactly do we need to say about Erangel? DK knows my spiel. This is the off-bred love child of Sanhok and Miramar, because it is the middle ground between those two extremes, which does leave it fairly reliant upon the flight path to determine what sort of early game we actually end up getting. And DK, I believe we are about to get kicked off with the very first match, and here we see it, our flight path. Starting from Severny and working its way down to the Novo region. DK, what are your initial thoughts?
I think it's not too bad of a flight path, right? Still quite relatively centered up, so it will allow the teams to make it a little bit more on towards those southwestern sides, or maybe even just more on towards the general western side. But I'm kind of hoping to see the zone potentially complementing this flight path, or being entirely disruptive, right? Moving maybe a little bit aggressively over towards that southwestern side. I think that would be quite a nice positioning to kick off our first match with.
Yeah, I feel like the two qualifying groups were met with two completely different kinds of flight paths throughout their competing days. You know, it seemed the Group A qualifiers were just all central paths, just affording nothing but options for our participants. And then, of course, Group B faced with, you know, half of the zone being in the water. And it looks like these participants today are not going to be afforded a whole lot better luck than that. As we can see, there is a decent chunk of the map occupied by water, and guys, this is absolutely going to limit our participants' drop spots, and that means one thing for us. It means it could be amounting to a more confrontational early game, and that is totally okay, because even if that's not the case, a more passive early game is always going to translate to a more action-packed and climactic mid or end game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite an interesting one. I mean, this is neither really complementing the flight path, nor is it a super, you know, aggressive shift. It's kind of like that middle ground, right? It's the love child of those two zones, just the same as Erangel is the love child of Miramar and Erangel. So I want to see what the teams are going to be doing. I'm loving the fact that we are having that slight bit of contention coming in towards Lipovka right out of the gate. But the rest of the lobby now has a great opportunity to get themselves nice and comfortably spread out throughout what is available within the zone.
I gotta agree with you, man. It does look like Based on Bullet and Third Eye are going to be potentially affording an early confrontation at the Lipovka area, but elsewhere we are left with a reasonable spread, with exception to the Clips Before Chicks being in fairly close proximity to Dark Esports. Now, however, Clips Before Chicks is a little bit spread out. 3 members in the Rozhawk area and 1 member straying off all the way down to school. That's going to be Fears. And wow, talk about an all-star lineup. We talk about it all the time. This is the Panthers, Fears, Knights, Coops, Wall Street Bets, 24K, and KBL Judges. That is quite a lineup.
Yeah, I mean, this is like if you could pick a fantasy team. This is almost, you know, one of those fantasy football teams that you could go for, and we are
all
looking at them
picks. Well, guys, it is just the early game, and as you can see, we are left with a little bit of a more passive start, and that is somewhat to be expected on a large map. And guys, large maps are 2 out of the 3 maps that we're going to be working with today, which means, yes, we might have a little bit more downtime in the early game, a little bit more silence, pockets of in-between time, but that is all going to amount to absolute bloodbath warfare come later into the game.
Yeah, absolute insanity. That is what we want to see. I mean, I'm pretty sure the teams don't necessarily want insanity, but that's what I low-key want to see come out on this battlefield. But I'm also curious to see what's going to happen to that southwestern edge, right? As we can see, of course, the players there from Seren are beautifully spread out alongside that coast, but down towards that far southern edge, that is where they, of course, is such a great opportunity still for a bit of that continuation to come into, right? Road to Death, the only team currently situated on towards that military island, but there could be so many other potential rotations the teams on the western side could look to bring on through, right? With that, I'm, of course, referring to the players coming through from Puppeteer, who are situated up in towards Gatka, also referring to the players coming through from the Care Bears, right? We've seen quite a phenomenal performance in the qualifiers, but now I want to see that setup kind of come through in towards this very first match of the grand finals.
Yeah, and as you can see, guys, right now we are sitting fairly close in contention between Based on Bullet and Third Eye. But as we've seen time and time again, you know, a lot of times in these larger events, the first match is where teams kind of dip their toes into the water and see, you know, the pace of things, feel around, get a feel for things, and that can mean yes, a little bit slower of a start, but understandably, guys, because placement is very important in a event like this. You have to place highly just to be in the contention. But guys, placement alone is not going to take you where you need to go. Kills are absolutely going to play a heavy weight in an event like this.
Yeah, and that's what we want to see, right? We want to see how many eliminations these teams are going to be able to secure on through. I gotta say, Forsaken Gaming, I'm loving their position towards just that off-angle side, right? I mean, not really up in towards Mansion. Yes, they are starting to get themselves situated partially within Mansion, but I'm liking the kind of territory that they are holding. And then that, of course, allows them quite a bit of leverage, especially right here on towards the players from Based on Bullet, and the players just situated up ahead of them. As we can see, of course, it's going to be the team coming through then from the side there of Third Eye, right? So I'm expecting a little bit of action to come in here, and once they start breaking off, rotating away, that could then, of course, be that opportunity now for Forsaken to come through.
Boy, and Akash really probably just did his team one of the biggest solids that they are not aware of, because he had Jadon right behind him, and that was going to be an opportunity to shoot from behind on the entire Based on Bullet team, at least on 3 of the members. And so realistically, he got him at just the right time. And look, SUK is coming in and adding on to that damage there. We see Akash taken down as well as one of his teammates. That is absolutely going to limit their gameplay, guys. By all means, when half your team is eliminated in the first 7 minutes, you are going to have to dial things back quite a bit and try to dial back from that aggressive to a bit more of a conservative standpoint. However, it does look like Third Eye is not going to afford that luxury to Based on Bullet, as we see them pushing up already.
Yeah, well, I think this is a really phenomenal utilization coming through from Third Eye, right? Securing that knockout, applying the pressure, moving in, but Mandip not going to be allowing too much of that to come through as they put up quite a bit of retaliation, as Sook is now trying to line up these hits, and this is where things are going to get super interesting. As you can see, Gunda also not taking hits, but down goes Mandip.
Yeah, Mandip almost clutched it right there. He got his opponent down to maybe 15% of his health. Unfortunately, not quite able to finish the job, and he's ultimately taken down in the process. We got Terminate trying to add on to that, but unfortunately taken out as well. And SUK saves the job for Third Eye, and he will be able to get the revive on his fallen teammates Gunda and Bolty.
And we wanted a nice uneasy start to this game, and that is exactly what we got. Great play coming through here from both Third Eye, and then of course the players that we saw, you know, that they had to deal with there. There were of course the players from Based on Bullet. Good start, good healthy play. I've said that 7 times already, but I'll maybe say it again. And now it is all down to what the rest of the teams are going to be doing.
Yeah, and currently, guys, most of these teams have already found a way to rotate into zone, but we do still have some outliers. I am, of course, talking about Dauntless and the Care Bears at the North and South George area, as well as the Skills of Mine boys hanging up in the northwest at Zarki, way out in the dead zone. Now, you don't see a lot of dead zone camping too much on the larger maps. It seems to be a more prominent strategy in a Sanhok match per se. But guys, it does happen, and it's understandable. As we mentioned earlier, placement is extremely important. So a lot of these teams might be going for a bit more of a reserve strategy. And what do I mean when I say that? I mean kind of holding back a little bit for potentially the first 50 to 60% of the match, trying to let these numbers dwindle down a bit before going out and acquiring your kills.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking about looking to go out and acquire some eliminations, right? Road to Death, they could have a beautiful setup coming through from that southern side. I mean, we do have Saren now setting up a bit of a bridge camp position there, but maybe Road to Death could find a way to have a road to a few more eliminations. Now with that congestion coming through from the northern side, it's going to be a pretty tough zone to compete with.
Yeah, and as you can see, we got the Dauntless boys working their way through that dead zone, trying to get in to a position of safety. They're going to have to work their way probably down that road from Roshawk School, but it might end up leading to some confrontation. Only time will tell. We also have some potential close confrontations in the works here, and that would be between the Hit List and members of Dark Esports. They are in fairly close proximity, as we mentioned, in the northern portion of the zone, but ooh, here we go. Somehow I skipped over this. Clips before chicks, not far off from Nucleotide Vendetta at all. Oh,
Yeah,
as well as Seren.
Yeah, they don't wasting any time, right? Looking to get right down to business. We can see those pushes coming through. Of course, the players there from Strangers PD also now going to be pushing up into Lipovka to, just greet the team from Third Eye. But again, those rotations are going to be making their way on through. It's still about who can get that opportune position locked in and then just, keep it pretty contentious with the defensive.
Yeah, depending on the zone, guys, one of the most absolutely important factors can be claiming early real estate into a zone. But I just noticed we were spectating Clips by Chicks here, and here we are again. Guys, they have already lost one member, 24K, but this just brings me back to their semifinals. They entered the very first match as a three-piece and absolutely annihilated the playing field. I'm not just talking winning. They absolutely won by a landslide. I'm talking monumentous kills, and I believe upwards of 2,300 damage as a three-piece. So yeah, when they're entering a match here as a full-force team, it's definitely a formidable opponent.
Oh yes, I mean it's going to be some pretty tough plays. But now as we look back over towards Lipovka, we do see the players here from Ace of Spades. We've got Stranger DB, and then still the players there from Third Eye trying to lock in that rotational pathway. But now Strangers, rushing forward with Revenge, finding the angle on towards Blinky.
Yeah, and G9 just cleaning up where he left off with an early thirst. It's to be expected. And here comes Revenge to accompany his fallen teammate, and it looks like they are going to be pulling their way into zone and away from the remainder of Ace of Spades.
Yeah, I mean, I think better do that early on when there's still a bit of an opportunity to play at. I mean, even the progression up towards that Malta area is still looking relatively decent. Ace of Spades now having to try and kind of piece together what they're going to be trying to do coming through from that northern side. But as we jump back towards center zone, it's going to be Sarah now heavy on the defensive, right? Trying to get the super position absolutely fortified.
Yeah, by claiming this area, they're not just getting central position in zone, but they're also accompanying that bridge. Anyone who works their way across is going to have to pass through that line of fire from Seren potentially, and that could be easy claps, potentially, I said. Now, unfortunately for them, it does so happen that they do have some contention on the other side. It is the Clips by Chicks boys, and they could end up engaging in them. Only time will tell, but they are not far off from one another, and if that is the case, it's really going to fall on Nyx and his teammate Killjoy, and I couldn't see who the other one was, but they're currently a three-piece at this front end zone, and their fourth is hanging back nearby members of Dark Esports. And I again stand a little bit corrected because their outlier, their fourth member who was hanging out, it looks to be Tens, was the one who ended up firing on the Clips by Chicks guys.
Yeah, the other player you were looking for was none other than Butcher, so the full spread of Seren just held up there. You can see Nyx now trying to pop a few hits over to Coops, but Coops is quick on the trigger, not going to be allowing too much of that really to come to fruition. Instead, it's also then Clips by Chicks here looking to lock down their compound. I mean, I'm pretty sure that they know that there are still several teams yet to get themselves a little bit more positioned within the zone.
Yeah, and when I was talking about teams just kind of testing the water, I think Clips by Chicks is a perfect example in this match because as most of the esports NA community knows, most of these players on this team are fairly aggressive. They end up liking to drop hot, go for the action, and kind of leave that open challenge out to their opponents to come get the smoke if they want it. But currently, as we can see, it is the slow play for Coops, Judges, 24K, and Fears, and that is understandable because, guys, with a prize pool in the thousands of dollars, a $2,300 first place prize, you have got to play carefully. Every move counts.
Yeah, everything needs to be calculated. And of course, speaking of calculated, that zone has also now taken a slight bit of a shift over on towards that northwestern positioning. So this position in which we find Saren and the players coming through there from Clips by Chicks, still being somewhat close towards center zone, but this is where things are going to get pretty tough, as we can see that mass convergence of teams are looking to get themselves situated within the zone.
Yeah, with 51 people alive for a zone this small and almost half of the zone being occupied by water, the bloodbath warfare that I was speaking about earlier begins now. And we're going to start off with Butcher with a Bison knock right there, quickly switching over his attention to Ronnie, trying to add on to it. We see Tins with a 6x Scar L just single tapping away at Fears from Clips by Chicks as well, doing some significant damage.
Yeah, gotta love that damage, you know, just slow and steady sometimes wins the race, but now it's gonna be a full-on fight, as you can see. Oh, just more and more players looking to also just draw themselves more into these positions. Road to Death being able to get themselves off of that bridge on towards the main island, but things not looking too easy just yet.
Yeah, and while this is happening, we have multiple other potential confrontations in the works. It looks like Strangers BD and Ace of Spades could be contending with one another, and yes, they are. Mambe and Blinky have already been eliminated, leaving it down to a two-person team of Versa and Nemesis. And this is where we dial things back a little bit, as we mentioned, because Strangers is a full-fledged four-piece, and that is a formidable opponent. They just kind of outnumber, outman, and outgun their opponent here. So it's going to be a little interesting to see how this plays out, because if you are Strangers and you know that you've taken out two members of Ace of Spades, what's the move? Do you go in advance on them? Do you play aggressive? Or do you play with a little bit of caution, because Forsaken Gaming isn't too far off?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really difficult call to make, but now we can see the players here from Dauntless also looking to test the waters as they come rushing up in towards the zone. Dogway almost picking up a quick little bit of a tappity tap onto Black there. But looking at the positionings within the zone, it is still such a very tight spread. I mean, even the players coming through then from the side of Puppeteer, who we have positioned in smack dab center zone, are going to be challenged for those areas, right? But now, Road to Death, trying to find a bit of that continuation. Still being quite healthy within the zone. They also could potentially be relying on these ridge lines for that extra bit of coverage.
Yeah, and Puppeteer boys are dropping like flies out in the distance. But it's interesting that you say that almost every team on the map right now is in a dangerous spot in terms of contention, with exception to the hit list. It seems to be the only real outlier. The hit list hanging just outside of farm with no one around for miles. And I think that this is a great placement for them because, yeah, they can just hang out, relax, and let these numbers dwindle.
Yeah, that's a big brain play, right? Just hanging back a little bit, having the rest of the lobby kind of just you know, condense this whole mad situation. But to add to that, the blue zone is of course going to get ready to move up, start constricting once again. That is going to be limiting the playable area and where these teams will then have to move to next.
Yeah, guys, and keep in mind, while we do have 50 participants still up, we are entering the 17th minute of the match, which means, guys, the zone, as you all well know, as it gets smaller and smaller and closes in, it deals out just exponentially higher damage. So at this point is where that dead zone starts to be a real formidable opponent. And as we say time and time again, I don't care how good of a player you are, nobody, and I mean nobody, has a higher KD than that blue zone.
Yeah, you know, it's the big old granddaddy, right? It's the master. It's the sensei. It'll teach you the ways of PUBG. But for the time being, we are going to be relying on the teams to instead teach each other maybe where not to be moving, as we now can see Daryl and the rest of the team here from the Care Bears taking up a very centralized position. And I think we are going to be having quite a bit of congestion coming through towards that southeastern side, seeing that there were so many teams on that very edge.
Yeah, we've got a love triangle forming here between those three teams. It looks to be Care Bears, members of Gods Reborn, as well as the Third Eye boys. And yeah, we have another love triangle out here with Clips Before Chicks, members of Serin, as well as, well, I guess that would be Dauntless out just a little bit further, but they are firing inbound at the Clips Before Chicks boys.
Yeah, and of course, if you smush all these love triangles together, it becomes a square of despair. And now it is going to be Pain feeling a little bit of that as Volt just comes through with a beautiful range spray.
Yeah, that 3x M4 was a beautiful shot, beautiful recoil control, but can he acquire the thirst from here? Now resorting to that single tap, but yes, he is dealing a couple hits. That little vehicle is not going to save him, though, and it looks like Payne is taken out by Amrit of the Dark Esports crew. It's going to be a nice little third party.
Ooh. Yeah, speed about third parties. Here it goes. It is clips by Chicks now just rushing on in. Seren feeling a little bit of that pressure come in their direction. Now it is going to be Nyx out into the vehicle trying to find a bit of an approach back in towards the zone. But look at this though, right? This is where everything is now just going to go up in smoke. So much carnage about to come through.
Yeah, and when we were talking about Seren, guys, this is the team that we were talking about is kind of going for that slower play right now. You can see they have 0 kills on the board, but they were a full four-piece team, and that was their goal. Unfortunately, they ran into the likes of Coops, and that is going to dwindle those numbers down considerably. Now, as a 3-piece, they are still a pretty formidable team, but they are going to have to play a little bit more cautiously.
Yeah, they definitely have to bring in a lot of that caution. But look at G9 just trying to bait the shots. But they are hot on his heels. Dauntless stepping up so aggressively. That is going to be road to death now, making their way back to the lobby. And this is absolute insanity on the edge of zone.
And as we see, we got Ace of Spades Versa trying to make it rain hellfire on his opponents in Dauntless. And even though they're outnumbered, they're still playing on a bit of the aggressive side. Guys, this new zone is here, and it is not very forgiving. I do not see a lot of compound cover afforded in this new zone, which means that early real estate, knowing the geography, knowing the hills, the good divots, where you can get cover at all is just imperative. And this is a lot of times where you see people incorporate those vehicles as cover come late to end game here. Ooh, and just as we say it, Skills of Mine eliminated in 13th place. We got Claws of Dauntless throwing some utilities inbound towards the likes of Ace of Spades Nemesis, not quite getting the damage in as he was hoping for, and Nemesis is able to heal up. All the while, his teammate Versa with that DBS going for a nice little aerial shot, but met with a DBS from the clips before Chicks Boys in retaliation, and he suffered the consequences.
Yeah, you know, that is just really, really tough. I saw Axel even in the chat saying that if, you know, the Coops team doesn't win this, they'll be thoroughly disappointed in the NA Pro. So, you know, no pressure to them whatsoever. But looking at Ace of Spades, is going to be Nemesis, the final contender left, trying to find a bit of an angle on towards Dauntless. Oh, that could be such a beautiful nade. It's going to come really close to Tigress, but not sufficiently so, not causing that necessary damage. Maybe the second one could be on the money. It is going to be a little bit of a movement coming through from the side of Dauntless, but still such a risky play to make.
Yeah, Nemesis definitely trying to recalibrate from that first throw, trying to correct the error of the first one. But unfortunately, Dauntless Boys did rotate just a few feet away, and that was all it took. And Nemesis, oh my goodness, getting Tigress out of the vehicle just before being ran over. He was just in inches of getting taken down, and he still gets the finish. Nicely done. Dogwave from Dauntless is taken down. Nemesis not stopping. He is still on a bloodbath right here, going after Killjoy of Seren, and he does get him.
Yeah, but now Nemesis, yes, you know, getting reminded that you can't challenge the big bad blue zone. It is going to beat your butt wherever you are.
But talk about making good use of your last moments of life, though. Getting that nice last-second kill for the team. Not bad. Anyways, boys, we got the Clips Before Chicks crew right here facing off against the likes of Third Eye. Third Eye being reduced down, as we noted, to Gunda and Bolty. And they're still playing on the aggressive here, trying to get a takedown on Judges. Judges is playing a little bit risky here from that shack, because while it does afford him a little bit of cover, it also lines him up for being taken out by one nade.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a possibility, but as we know, right, Judge is not going to be just moving on blindly. Instead, they're going to be trying to play a little bit more of a calculated position. But now Bolty and Gunda definitely having to try and line up those nades. They are so close to having that good, secure rotational pathway in towards the zone. But I can tell you, it is not going to be easy because the Care Bears are not too far away either.
Look at Butcher of Seren carrying on the team name with 839 damage so far. This boy is really on the aggressive. Unfortunately, I only saw 2 kills to his name, so it does look like he is having a bit of trouble acquiring those thirsts, but boy, on the all-out aggressive, he does! We see Gunda getting the knock on Judges of the Clips Before Chicks crew. This could be interesting to see how this plays out. If Gunda goes for this thirst, he's going to have to do so enshrouded in smoke, all the while his teammate trying to accompany him, but those Clips Before Chicks boys are so intimidating, and as you can see, Coops and Fears a little bit preoccupied with the Dark Esports crew.
Yeah, they fears nothing, right, as they just move on forward quickly, disposing of the Dark Esports team. And now you can see Gunda trying to use this opportunity to get themselves repositioned towards that zone. Not making it all the way in, I can't really blame them, right? Loving the position though being held by Care Bears, still having all 4 players in the mix, and they have possession of the compound.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is that calm before the storm scenario, if there ever was one. Only 4 teams remain, spread across 9 players here, and here we go. We got Coops just getting a nice little heal off, getting fully boosted to prepare for this final battle.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite a bit of a fight coming through. But Care Bears trying to play this one a little bit more calculated. Instead, trying to hold on to these compounds as long as they can possibly manage. But now, as we look onto the players there from Third Eye, right? Still a bit of an option, right? They have a slight bit of ridge to utilize, not putting them in clear line of sight of the Care Bears just yet.
And guys, we talk about it time and time again, the importance of utilities come in game. And as you can see, case in point, the Clips Before Chicks crew doesn't have a lot of cover afforded to them. And so they are making use of those smokes as they have been saving them up all game. And that could be the only thing separating them from life and death here.
Yeah, I mean, those smokes sometimes come in quite handy. But now it's going to be Gunda feeling quite a bit of pressure still on that off-end Bolty, trying relentlessly now to secure that res. But up comes the hit. It is going to be Jareed from the Care Bears, not going to be backing off. And Fears actually now getting traded. And now it all turns to Coops, the final hopeful for the side of Clips Before Chicks. But look at this now. Okay, this slow and steady approach. Not going to be rushing.
Ooh.
They're trying to lock in all the information, and down goes Bolty.
Well, if that nade hadn't gotten him, Jareed had his number. And guys, here we go. It's the final showdown here. We got honestly, I believe it's a 4v1v1. This is gotta be playing out in the Care Bears' favor, right? I mean, Butcher, if he pulls this off, it would be one of the most monumentous PUBG Mobile Esports NA events or endings that we've seen to any of these matches, and unfortunately not. And the Care Bears are able to acquire the victory, but not just getting the victory, they got it as a full 4-piece.
Yeah, I mean, a really, really good approach coming through. Care Bears just absolutely obliterating the competition. I mean, once you are for a full 4-piece coming into those later phases, I mean, it becomes quite challenging for the opposition to put much of a fight. And what a play that was. I mean, Care Bears finishing off the day, there was some really, really, quite amazing eliminations, right? Locking in 11 alongside their winner chicken dinner. That's the way you want to start off these grand finals.
Yeah, that is no small number of kills. Anyone who's been a part of these events knows any kill number above that 6 or 7 mark is a pretty above average number for me. So I think when you reach the 11 mark, when you hit those double digits, you got to be pretty proud of yourself, especially when you have a gold medal to accompany it. And then we got in second place, Seren holding it with 5, the Clips Before Chicks crew in third with 8. And as we've seen, Clips Before Chicks, how they participated in the semifinals, they weren't even really that focused on getting late placement. While they did acquire a victory here and there, it seems like they advanced primarily based on kills. So that is pretty scary to see them in the top 3. That is something to watch out for.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe they're just looking to shake things up a little bit. And shake, they definitely did, right? I mean, it was so close. They were really up in the running. But I gotta say, looking at Butcher's position coming through in that very last zone, I mean, I'm pretty sure Butcher's just kicking themselves in the butt for not taking that shot. That could potentially have maybe just added on one additional elimination for the team.
Yeah, it could have made all the difference, but here we see it as it stands. To no surprise, the player of this match is going to be Coops of the Pittsburgh Knights, as he holds it with 5 kills, and he's playing for Clips Before Chicks, ladies and gentlemen. 5 kills, but look at this, DK. 1,090 damage, which means for every kill he is putting down, he's dealing out twice as much damage.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, it's Scoops at the end of the day, right? Are we surprised to see that? Well, from my side, it's a definite no. I mean, that's kind of what we're expecting to see from Scoops. Want to see that aggression come through. But again, a really good approach coming in regardless, right? I mean, even looking at what we had come that 7th phase, right? We had the entirety of Saren still holding strong. The Care Bears up in there. We had the players from Third Eye still being super contentious alongside the Clips Before Chicks. And of course, the Care Bears just doing their thing, securing that winner chicken dinner with 11 eliminations, being our MVP.
Now, if you were to make this comparison, when you look at Coops, yes, he did put up a ton of damage, almost as much damage as the full team of Care Bears, but when you look at it, Care Bears did it more efficiently. And when you see 11 kills spread out across 1,386 damage, it tells you one thing. It means that most of these knocks they're getting those thirsts as well.
Oh yes, I mean, that conversion rate is looking really, really, really good. So I'm curious to see what the Care Bears are going to be doing for our remaining matches, right? How that is then going to translate over into vastness over on Miramar, and also that slight bit more contention coming up into the lovely Sanhok.
Yeah, only time will tell. And as we've said, guys, each map is different, but let's have a look at our top 4 damaging teams. Care Bears with 1,386 damage, trailing about 300 points, 300 damage behind the Clips by Chicks crew. We've got the Third Eye putting up 824 damage, but look at this, Seren with 1,570, and that has to be in fairly decent amount because of Butcher being able to carry on the team name.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we are seeing quite a bit of effort being put in with regards to securing those potential eliminations, right? I mean, that's what all this damage comes from. The teams jumping at the opportunity, spotting that movement, trying to make a little bit more of a play from that point. And, you know, all they can do is just try and improve on that as much as they possibly can. But Third Eye also a really good conversion rate, meaning that they didn't waste a lot of that damage that they were actually dealing.
Not just wasting damage, but they didn't waste a lot of their resources. They made every bullet count, and they did not worry too much about putting up extremely high numbers. Don't get me wrong, 7 kills is nothing to wag your finger at. But, you know, there is a nice, healthy balance between aggressive gameplay and tactical conservatism.
Yeah, I mean, but how conservative do you want to be, though?
Yeah, well, finding that healthy line seems to be the trick here. Well, guys, let's have a look at the head-to-head comparison of Care Bears and Clips by Chicks. We can see Care Bears leading 3 kills over Clips by Chicks and about 300 damage behind them. And obviously a good chunk of that damage in part because of Coops putting up about 1,000. However, you can see Care Bears with 4 assists as compared to the Clips by Chicks with just 1, and only surviving for a matter of 3 seconds more.
Yeah, I mean, this is really, really close. I mean, it's such a competitive lobby that we are looking at, especially if we're looking at our teams that are, you know, just rising to the occasion with regards to the aggression, those positioning, and those rotations. But as we know, right, this can all still change as we still have 2 more maps to go for today. But our overall rankings is where things are not going to be all too surprising. We can see our top 4 teams being very contentious with regards to their points.
Yeah, we see Care Bears holding that healthy lead with a total of 26 points. They are going to be leading by 8 points over the Clips by Chicks crew with 18. We see Seren holding third, only 1 point behind with 17. Third Eye in fourth with 15. And that's where you start to see the real competitive nature between that second and fourth place, at least for match 1. As you can see, if you're Dark Esports, Nucleotide Vendetta, Ace of Spades, really the name of the game at this point is going to be trying to put up a little bit higher number of kills, obviously, and that's gonna have to come down to a bit of sniper warfare here as we move into the wide open map of Miramar. What works so well on that not lush condensed Erangel, but that kind of middle ground Erangel. What works so well there is not necessarily the ticket in the wide open desert, so they are going to absolutely have to change things up. And if you are one of those 3 teams being fairly close in that top bracket, you've got to have blood on your mind.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to try and lock in as much of an aggressive approach as you can. So I think moving into the desert, I think that's where things are going to become quite interesting, right? As you said already, it is going to be allowing a little bit more for those ranged assaults. And I mean, we've seen coming through from our 2 semi-final days that we had a little bit of a different situation coming through into those Miramar maps. So I'm curious to see who is going to be that team to rise to the occasion this time around.
Yeah, we were left with some lucky Miramar matches, guys, but only time will tell as we move forward to round 2 of the PUBG Mobile Campus Championship, coming at you in just a few short minutes. Stick around, we'll be back soon.
I know that you're feeling it. Like they're bringing anything to the table. Bro, I'm not your son, see I'm able. I do my own bits. Limited edition, no some missing classic shit. I know that you're feeling it. The heat's coming from my fires. I'd fire to my words. We're the worst every time, yeah, that we roll. See, know how it goes. I'm my favorite secret, she likes to keep close. Feeling it. I know that you're feeling it. Feeling it. I know that you're feeling it. Feeling it. Feeling it. I know that you're feeling it. Feeling it. I know that you're feeling it.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to round 2 of the PUBG Mobile Campus Championship, day 1 of 2, and we had an intense first round on Erangel, DK, but now we're moving forward into the wide open desert of Miramar. What do you think?
I mean, if Erangel was that...
is so large that it finds itself almost entirely reliant upon that early flight path to determine what sort of early game we end up getting.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be quite an exciting one to see where our teams are going to be going. And I mean, like, we've seen already, right? Miramar shaping up to be quite a bit of an excitement as the teams are looking to get themselves situated. But what I want to really see today is the teams utilizing everything the terrain has to offer, right? We did see a few glimpses of that in those semifinals, but I want to see even more of that now come today's Miramar.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because on a map as open and just sparse as a desert can be, it absolutely makes sense to really understand the geography. Know the good hills and divots, because guys, when compound cover can be few and far between, that's what it really comes down to, just knowing where you can get your natural cover.
Yeah, and that could definitely assist quite a bit, especially looking at where we have our flight path, right? Very centralized, so the teams being very capable of getting themselves into most of these positions. I mean, if they're not really able to reach all the way across, always you could just hop into a quick little bit of a vehicle, you know, get yourself situated wherever you want to go.
Yeah, you can almost hear a sigh of relief from our participants, because this is a very ideal flight path for a map like this. As you can see, fairly centralized, and it's going to afford them a lot of compound options, which means that we might be left with a little bit more of a spread, maybe a little bit slower of a start, which is to be expected often on Miramar. But you know what I always say, DK, you already know my spiel. A more passive early game means a more intense in-game. But let's see who's going where. We got Dauntless getting an early start, jumping northbound and claiming the El Pozo area, and they're not going to have anyone around for too close for comfort. However, the Skills of Mine crew, who jumped just southbound at the Monte Nuevo area, might have to worry about the opponents in Forsaken Gaming. However, Forsaken is taking a bit more of a spread out approach. We can see the Built on Bullet boys dropping straight down over the Hacienda power grid region, and they're going to be in fairly close proximity to Road to Death as well as Puppeteer. Just outside of the zone, in more the southeastern region, we can see Los Leones. It could be contested between the likes of pardon me, that looks to be Seren, as well as Road to Death and the likes of Nucleotide Vendetta.
Ooh, I mean, that could be nice, nice hot and sweaty, right here out on towards Miramar. But again, I'm loving the kind of spread that we are seeing coming through from teams. I mean, Road to Death looking quite comfortable up towards that northern side. If we also then look to see who they're sharing it with, it is, of course, then the players then for Puppeteers. We've got the players from Based on Bullet also now having a very centralized positioning up and towards that San Martin. So I'm curious to see where these rotations are going to be going through, because we've got such a spread along that edge of zone.
Yeah, we do. And guys, when we were talking about a large map, here is a case in point example. Literally, even the teams who jumped as northbound as it could be afforded aren't even able to get into the top half of this zone, which leaves a lot of open real estate for these participants to actually drive northbound, get a nice rotation to the northern end of the zone, and maybe lay low.
Yeah, I mean, there could be a little bit of that laying low coming through. Definitely, because we can see there, Gods Reborn, they're not going to be laying low. Instead, they are going to be moving up high. And of course, Volt comes through with a little of that bolty action now, finding it up over towards Jaden from the Care Bears. So I'm loving the aggression being shown here. But again, now you got to find that kind of that balance, right? Are you going to look to challenge that position, or are you going to use that opportunity to instead grant yourself a little bit of leverage to get positioned towards the zone?
You're absolutely right about finding a healthy balance. We see Volt already making a perfect example of that distance sniper intensive gameplay that we were talking about. But you are absolutely right, guys. With a map as open as this, it is got to be a healthy balance between, as we said, aggressive gameplay and a bit more of a reserved approach, because the odds of being third-partied here are much higher than on a map like Sanhok.
Yeah, I think, like, you know, those range assaults, the craziest one that I've seen was 403 meters on Miramar. I mean,
oh, wow.
That is, to put that into perspective for the people who don't necessarily know, right? That is on the edge of render, right? In PUBG Mobile, it ranges to about 400 meters, right? Depending on your device, your speed, there's several factors to that, but that is quite impressive. Hitting a player that you almost can't see.
Yeah, 400 meters is the edge of render for a brand new device, you know, one of the newest models. However, yeah, I mean, I even play on an iPad 9th gen, and I believe the render begins at about 320 or 330 for me. So 400 meters is extremely impressive. But guys, as it stands here, we've got Ace of Spades holding position a little bit spread out here in fairly close to proximity to Serin and Dark Esports. Looks like we have a little love triangle forming on the outskirts of Impala.
Yeah, I mean, Impala is always such an interesting position to look at, especially with that elevation that you've got within Impala itself, but also closer to where we see the players there from Dark currently being situated. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out rather than for Serin. But also, I'm kind of seeing a little bit more of that spread coming through towards the edges, right? The Care Bears taking that plunge all the way up towards that northern side. That actually is going to allow them great possibilities based on where the other teams currently are situated.
Yeah, and honestly, if you are Care Bears, after putting up a performance like that in round one, I agree with this. I agree with getting up there and just laying low for a little bit, because as we said, guys, this is a map that you have to be alert of, not just your immediate, but your distant surroundings as well. And so by doing this, they are affording them some time, letting a couple teams be taken out in the process, getting that better placement. And as we've seen, they exercised in round one, trying to utilize that late in-game for the aggressive gameplay.
Yep, can't really wait for that to come through, but for the time being, right, we have to settle for what it is that we've got happening, and it is going to be Butcher and Tens going about their loot business, while the rest of the team are, of course, looking to get that mobility sorted out. Up comes Killjoy with, this is quite an interesting decision, or choice rather, to be making on Miramar, right? Those bikes, the motorcycles, they sometimes have a bit of a mind of their own when it comes to the terrain.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, we've already got something in the works here as we see the likes of Puppeteer not far off from Road to Death. And as you can hear the gunshots in the distance, not far off, we can see Prince taking some damage off in there, being brought down to just below half health.
Oh, yo, come on. It's not going to be Cold Pants. Just trying to do the due diligence towards that southern edge. A good spread, though. I mean, 3-1 does allow them a nice bit of an opportunity on towards Road to Death. But again, this is where the terrain comes into play. It's going to be a little bit more challenging for Puppeteer to secure a decent angle onto the Road to Death team.
Yeah, and I think what you said is just case in pointed right there, as Fang spraying away with that M44X, able to deal out pretty considerable damage, but unfortunately his opponent making it behind the hill just in the nick of time. And so all that work was for naught. Fang already getting into that buggy, and we were talking about this in the semifinals. You know, if there was ever a time to utilize the buggy, it's got to be the Miramar match. You see it time and time again, teams trying to utilize that Volkswagen bus and just going over those hills and divots and just having a tough go of it. Well, the buggy is affording a lot more speed in those rotations. It does come with some risk, as we all know. The odds of being shot off the back of that are pretty high. And here we see it, Puppeteer still going in, providing those single shots, not getting a whole lot of connecting damage there. Ace of Spades, it looks like Nemesis is taking quite a hit, being brought down to 1/5 of his overall health, gonna try to get a first aid off. All the while, we see Blinky, his teammate, working his way up on the Dark Esports crew.
Yeah, loving this approach coming through from Ace of Spades onto Dark Esports, but now it's going to be Noob trying to find the spray. Oh, come on. Lucky just up the head. Oh, it takes so much damage, dealing so much as well, and it's going to be Noob to get taken down. Now it all turns to Neo, and of course, Amaret still to try and find a little bit of that closure here, but again, just trying to utilize what the terrain has presented them with, and now we have the addition of Mumbai rolling on in as well, so this could be exactly what Ace of Spades needs.
Yeah, you talk about utilizing geography, and Blinky did just that. Spraying away, but diving back and forth behind that hill ended up saving him considerably. He was only taken down to about half health, and you know, that was a pretty intense little standoff there. So when you think about it, he saved himself a lot of damage just by utilizing that little bit of geography.
Yeah, definitely not a subject I did all too well in school with, but either which way, right? Let's see what our players can do, as it is now Neo going to be holding on. A little bit of that spray connecting up with the vehicle ahead of Blinky here, but of course now They aren't going to be settling for that position just yet. Neo now having to try and kind of figure out what their approach is going to be at this point, right? They are out in the blue, tanking on a little bit of that damage. But they can't really afford to do that for all too long.
Yeah, if you are Neo, the last remaining hope for Dark Esports, you have to probably weigh your options and cut your losses. It doesn't seem like this confrontation has led to much productive for the team, and realistically the name of the game for him at this point should probably be survival and placement. There's not a whole lot of options you can do when all your opponents are just full-fledged 4-piece and 3-piece teams. You're going to be outnumbered, outmanned, and outgunned. But guys, let's get into it. Clips before Chicks facing off with Puppeteer. We see Fears getting ready to cook up a nade, going to make it rain hellfire upon judges.
Oh, they're going to be looking for that angle also. Then there's going to be the Hitless also getting into a little bit of an altercation here. Of course, now look at that spray coming on through. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. And I mean, this is just absolute carnage. And Skills of Mine get sent on their merry way. But now Clips by Chicks also going to be applying that pressure right onto Puppeteer.
Yeah, and here we go. Clips by Chicks already with 1 kill on the board. They did get a 1-member knock. Judges is down, but being carefully revived, hopefully. Oh, I take that back. Fang from Puppeteer adding a little extra pressure to the Clips crew. And here we have it. Fears firing away with that UMP-45, quickly switching over to his utility. We'll see if he can make use of it. This is a pretty close range for using those nades. Ooh.
Yeah,
right.
But it's never too close for Molly to come on in, and this is now going to be Clips by Chicks quickly trying to just patch themselves back up into contention, while the Puppeteers are trying to play out that ridge. Fang just staying well ahead of those nades.
Wow, Fang escaping by the hair on his chin. We saw 24K, who is eliminated fairly early on in round 1, trying to make up for lost time, making it rain that nade upon him, and it looked like it was going to hit. It was just a little bit short, unfortunately, and only dealing out minimal damage in that case. 24K, on the other hand, taking quite a load of damage in retaliation, being brought down to below 1/4 of his health, and going to try to get a heal off while he's enshrouded in that smoke.
Ooh, but it's going to be Fang to go down. It's now Reckless left to try and defend, and this is going to be that opportunity now for Clips by Chicks to just come full send, rushing straight on forward, and that is exactly what Coops does. Does it even with that M249. I mean, got bullets to spare, might as well use all of them.
Yeah, Reckless had the same predicament as Dark Esports' Neo, being the last member up for the team. Unfortunately for him, he had one of the most formidable teams already on his tail. They smelled his scent, and they smelled the blood in the water. And at that point, it was just a number of moments before he was going to be taken out. He didn't have a lot of options, just a handicap match that was just a bit too much.
Well, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles, right? At the end of the day, you just gotta, you know, twist it, lick it, dunk it, and take whatever you're dealt. But now, of course, the players here from Based on Bullets are going to be looking to hold on to this more southern position, right? They got the players there from Forsaken Gaming situated on the western side. They got the lovely San Martin just over to their east. But to the north, that is, of course, where we do see the Clips by Chicks. So I'm curious to see what Based on Bullets are going to be doing from this point.
What I like to see is kind of this comparison between Forsaken Gaming and Based on Bullets approach here. As you can see, as we said, knowing the geography is super important. Getting early placement is imperative in certain situations. But as you can see, Forsaken Gaming and Built on Bullet had two completely different approaches. Built on Bullet going for the high elevated region, trying to get an overwatch position and get a nice view over as much of the map as possible. Forsaken Gaming, on the other hand, taking a bit of a lower approach, but getting that compound cover. It's going to be interesting to see which little strategy ends up favoring the teams the most.
Yeah, definitely be quite interesting to see. But also speaking about what's interesting, right, it is going to be the players here from Road to Death and, of course, none other than Dauntless getting into a bit of an altercation to that more northern position. Care Bear is also now starting to mobilize themselves not too far away from this altercation. And that zone is also going to show us where's moving to next as Ronnie DB takes a little bit of that damage now.
Yeah, and Dauntless is making a bit of a trade here. They're doing that 3-1 split here. And as you can see, Claus is the one in the closer range of danger. He's fairly close to the Road to Death crew, but if he does go for the aggressive side here, his teammates might be a little too far away to assist him in time. Yeah, they might get that range fire in, but being able to come in and stick that revive is going to be a bit more difficult. And now we see Claus focusing in on another team as well. He's got the Care Bears, the winners of round 1, closing in as well. This could be a bad sandwich situation for Dauntless Claus.
That could potentially be indeed, but I mean, speaking about sandwiches, we are seeing a little bit of that now also starting to develop on towards the eastern side, on the very edge of Blue Zone, and that is coming through between the players from Strangers and none other than Ace of Spades. But it is all going to come down to what these teams will be doing with the situation. Already now, Ace of Spades trying to reach in. They've already got that knock on towards Revenge. Now it turns to G9 and the rest of Strangers to bring in a little bit of a response here.
And gosh, let's give credit to Mambe. While we were able to see through that smoke, that is only a spectator advantage. So Mambe doing some spray and pray action and getting the thirst. All the while, Road to Death Jason focusing in on Jareed, one of the heavyweights from round 1, trying to take him out with that 3x M4, just spraying away. And Jareed utilizing that geography, as we've said time and time again, just being just out of sight of those bullets.
And of course, so we also see that feed now starting to light up with a few more shots coming in. But now Jason still waiting quite patiently, but this is going to be allowing a little bit of continuation to come through elsewhere, right? Clips by Chicks now going to be lining up the aggression towards Third Eye. Already they've lost one of their players, Gundar, getting taken down. We got Sook, Balti, and Unjon, right? Am I saying that right?
Jadon.
Maybe
Jadon,
not.
yeah.
There we go. There we go. Right up close and personal.
Sorry, guys. We're not trying to interrupt each other. There's a bit of a ping spread between us. But this is a great point to bring up here. The Clips by Chicks boys are doing exactly what I talked about in round 1. They didn't exercise it so much in round 1, but they are a very aggressive group here. They like to drop hot and get that early confrontation. And look at them with already 6 kills on the board. As we reach the halfway point, Coop's already responsible for 4 of those 6 kills.
Yeah, I mean, that's just absolutely insane to look at. But now it is going to be Third Eye trying to hold on, right? I mean, they are in so much trouble right about now, as you can see that full send coming in. And this is going to be the opportunity. And down goes Sook as the hits connect on through.
Yeah, and Clips just operating as a singular unit there and just ripping into him. He did not have a lot of options, outnumbered, and it was just bound to happen, it seemed. But now the Seren crew could have heard those shots and might even be coming in for a third party. It doesn't look to be the case, and either way, it looks like Clips by Chicks is not even going to afford them that luxury as they get an early rotation after a knock.
Yeah, but just up ahead of them is none other than Strangers BD, right? So it could be an interesting position being played at there. But now, based on Bullet, they are going to be playing a little bit more towards that southwestern side. They got the players here from Forsaken Gaming positioned just up ahead of them. And neither team really looking to have the advantage with regards to their current positioning. I think it's going to come down to who is able to find that more opportune angle.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a bit of a tough go for Forsaken and Built on Bullet because whoever, decides to be that first team to try to bow out into zone could be leaving their backs turned on what could be, a sniper, a nice sniper shot, anything like that. Forsaken Gaming also would probably need a north or south rotation. If they work their way directly in, they're going to have numerous teams to worry about. But guys, all the while, we see Strangers working on the Clips before Chicks crew, and this is, again, a nice example of a difference in strategy. Clips trying to utilize that elevated position, getting a nice overwatch, trying to cover as much ground as possible. Strangers utilizing what compound cover is afforded to them, and this is going to be a nice trade-off here. But as you can see, Flash God is not given the affordance of being in zone. So only time will tell, but time is not on their side. They are going to have to find a way to work their way in zone, and soon.
Yeah, time is definitely not a luxury at this point, but it is going to be Mumbai now having a bit of a position. As we can see, it is going to be the Gods Reborn just up ahead. The shots coming in so aggressively. Loving the work that Mumbai is trying to accomplish here. Of course, now setting out a quick little bit of a molly, trying to find that extra bit of damage, but up comes the full send, and Mumbai now having to retreat back into the compound. Instead, it's going to be Wolf taking their own player down, and there we have it. Wolf then also lining up Mumbai.
Yeah, well, talk about making up for a bad mistake. You knock your teammate with a nade, but you just save the moment in that last brief shot. Very nice. And honestly, if you were Mombay, you had to be feeling the pressure, because not only did you have to try to survive that push from the oncoming team, but trying to do so and take them out before his fallen teammate was bled out. And unfortunately, it just did not work out in their favor. Catching eyes on the Care Bears, however, we can see a very spread out approach. It looks like a 2-1 split there. Jareed far off from the team, hanging outside his zone. All the while, we see Faker playing in the team of Dauntless. It looks like he's filling in from the Wall Street Bets end, trying to tap away with that. Not quite getting a lot of connecting damage, and he's going to use this opportunity to try to work his way closer to his teammates as they begin to face off against Gods Reborn.
Yeah, Gods Reborn now really getting put on the back foot here. As we can see, Vortex is going to be down, and now it all comes down to our side. The last hopeful trying relentlessly to hold on. I mean, wait, sorry, it's not the last one. We do see Wolf now making a dash for that zone, but they are going to be pulling up right alongside the Clips by Chick. So this could be quite a risky maneuver being brought through here by the players.
Absolutely. And guys, we're not trying to like overly publicize Clips by Chicks, but we go where the action goes. And look at this, 10 kills to their name already, and almost about to add on to it if they can get that Thirst on Dark. We see 24K does go for it with that UMP 45, leaving Wolf on his own.
Wow, these positionings are just looking absolutely phenomenal. Now it's going to be 24K quickly just trying to patch up that health bar. Wolf now trying to make sense of what is happening, but they have to be really quick about it because we got Dauntless also now just positioned over towards that western side, but a quick little bit of a nade getting sent across also in the receiving one in response. Oh, but Wolf doesn't seem to be able. I don't think they're going to be lasting all too long just now.
Yeah, and this is kind of the trade we were talking about because Wolf did have a teammate. He had Assad alive, but as you can see, they were utilizing a spread out approach, which comes with its advantages and comes with its disadvantages, which we saw both of right now. The advantages, yeah, you're not all going to be taken out in the same spray. The disadvantages, if one of you is attacked, the odds of your teammate being able to help are slim to none, as we saw case in point. All right, we got Care Bears just tapping away with that M16, trying to get a knock on Tigris. Tigris just above half health here, but utilizing that boulder and vehicle cover as well as a smoke to add just a little bit of extra cover onto the spot. But we'll see if it ends up helping out. All the while, built on Bullet, Terminate, and Shiran trying to hold up the team name. Akash desperately in need of a heal.
Yeah, well, Terminate now going to be looking to line that one up as Akash goes down. It's going to be Bane with a full send. That UMP now looking absolutely glorious. Up comes the rest of the team rushing on forward. There's going to be Srijan now just finding that head and dealing absolute devastation. It is now turned into a 1v1. It is Bane versus Srijan, and up comes the hits, and it's going to be the end of the road.
Oh, what a confrontation. Talk about an amazing drop shot. Just dodging those bullets and getting the knocks right in the nick of time and being able to carry on the team name, but it did not come without a price. Losing Akash and Terminate in the process cost him dearly, and now all the pressure is on Sriran to carry on his team name, and now it is time to dial things back and try to lay low, but with that final zone being shifted down and shrinking, his options are slim to none on terms of early real estate, so things are gonna get a bit tricky here.
Yeah, especially adding on to that the position of the players here from Dauntless, Clips by Chicks, and the Care Bears. I mean, three names that you do not want to see holding on to that zone if you're looking for position. But it's going to be Faker and Klaus getting taken on down Dogway, and Tigris still looking for a bit of continuation here, but they need to be super careful because the Care Bears are just west of them.
Yeah, and we got to give it up to Clips by Chicks judges right there. 2 birds, 1 spray with that M46X combo. That's 2 healthy knocks there. Now let's see what we can do with that utilized time. Now, all the while, we see Road to Death needing to work their way into zone, but they've got the likes of Nucleotide Vendetta and Seren in front of them.
Oh, want to talk about some really tough odds. That is exactly what they have to deal with. But now look at that, right? Third Eye still going to be holding on to that very eastern edge of the zone. Dauntless now going to be just moving themselves ever closer, still not having clear passageway in towards the zone. The moment they move into position is going to be Clips by Chicks just raining down, very similar to what Godland just did right there.
Yeah, able to take out what remained of Nucleotide Vendetta and acquire his second kill and the team's second as well. Well, guys, now is where things start to get a little extra spicy. We got 6 teams spread across 16 players and not a lot of room to cover. Here we go. We got Daryl, pardon me, of the Care Bears just trying to get healed up, but unfortunately, it's the play zone to take him out. And case in point, no one's got a higher KD than that blue zone. All the while, Godlin from Road to Death taking a lot of attention as well, being shot down to just below half health and firing away in retaliation with that Scar L 3X combo as he works his way into zone.
Yeah, I got to commend Godlin for that one. That was a really beautiful play, trying to get themselves up in towards zone, finding that spray as well. But, I mean, it is going to be a very warm welcome as they get closer. Of course, Clips by Chicks now just secured onto the elevation. Beautiful scene, and look at Coops go to work with that M249, now also picking up Jason.
Brother, they have 19 kills. Brother.
Yep.
What? See, this is what I was talking about, man. This is what I'm talking about. Clips before Chicks, even if they were eliminated in 4th place or 5th place, they are putting up such an absurd number of kills that the number of points that they're accruing is bonkers. They are not even necessarily prioritizing placement. I mean, just so happens to work out that way this game, but they are a kill-intensive team on the all-out bloodbath aggression tactic, and it is working out beautifully for them.
Yeah, it's almost like their tactic is if it moves, it goes, right? Already 21 eliminations, 1 player standing between them and that winner chicken dinner. I mean, if you want to talk about a deserving chicken, this is definitely one of those. Yeah,
they've got chicken on the tip of their tongue. They can already taste it. Even if J-Don somehow pulled out the miraculous and 1v4'd all of them, he is not going to be able to accrue anywhere near the number of points that Clips Before Chicks has just done.
Mm-hmm. Oh, valiant effort being put in, finds the knock, and that's the end, right? That's it. 22 eliminations, 14 assists, and nearly 3,500 damage.
DK, I'm a little bit speechless. You know, I've casted so many events. I know you have too. It is very few and far between that you see a win quite like this. 22 kills, 3,460 damage is an absurd number. Just to give a little bit of a comparison, if you guys were to look at the semifinals, we were giving props to Clips Before Chicks for their 2,300 damage mark. They hit that and we were impressed, and they just blew us out of the water there. Kills surpassing the 20 mark. Things are going to get a little bit spicy, especially considering that they already have a 3rd place finish in round 1 to add on to this victory.
Yeah, I mean, also to put the damage into perspective, right? It's like they pretty much ended the rest of the lobby, the half of the lobby, right? That is the amount of damage that they dealt. That is, they knocked the half of the lobby, right? Just as one team. I mean, that's absurd. That is absolutely insane to think of. But we gotta give the greater wits due. I mean, Clips by Chicks, right? They're out there for the clips, and I mean, they just emptying clips like it's no one's business.
Yeah, every member on this team is a professional player, and now you know why. Coops, debatably, but, you know, in fair consensus, he is probably considered one of the top players in the North American scene, and you can see why, boasting 9 of those kills alone. You just don't really see that in the Tier 2, Tier 3 brackets, but 3,500 damage? Almost unprecedented.
It's like I said, it is absolutely absurd. But of course, speaking about that absurdity, we have to take a look and see who our MVP is. I'm pretty sure we know who it could be, but let's take a look.
Yeah. Well, that's 2 games in a row, brother. The first game with, I believe, 5 or something, and now look at this here. 9 kills on the board, responsible for 992 damage. What does that tell us? This boy is efficient. Every bit of damage was secured with a thirst as well, with exception to just 92 damage. You gotta give props to Pittsburgh Knights' own Coops.
Yeah, I mean, Pubg should be on a team all by themselves, right? just rocking out there, showing what they can bring. But again, just in case you forgot, here it is. We just looked at it. Our most valued team, none other than Clips by Chicks. 22 eliminations, nearly 3,500 damage. I mean, yeah, like we're gonna get stuck in a loop if we try to explain just how absolutely absurd that is.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see because when you look at players like this, it all kind of depends on the event in terms of their gameplay. You know, if there is more just for fun on the table, yeah, they're going to be a little bit more erratic. But here you can see a well-formulated team with money on the mind, not sacrificing a single player in the process and putting up numbers in the absurd range. And just to add a little bit of context, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the top 4 damaging teams. We got the Hit List with 577, Dauntless with 932, Ace of Spades with 754. Now, that is impressive, but if you combine all 3 of that, it doesn't equate to even 2/3 of the damage that Clips by Chicks did on their own.
Yeah, and I mean, the reason why I'm laughing is that we had Legal FPS in the chat saying, Coops, nah, you're overdoing it. I have to agree with that, right? Coops really overdoing the effort on that one. But I mean, like you just said, even if you combine the other three teams' points together, it doesn't come close to what we just saw come through from Clips by Chicks. And that just speaks volumes as to the capability of the individual players. I mean, it'd be fantastic and absolutely mind-blowing to see the entire lobby with players performing like this at this level, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be insane.
And when you look at the Clips by Chicks team, you have to say those boys ate their Wheaties this morning and came ready to play. But as we have said time and time again, it all depends on the map in terms of strategy. But let's just look at this eliminations and damage chart. This is where it really gets put into perspective for you guys. This is a spread that I've never seen. I've never seen a bigger gap between one team and the rest of a playing field in terms of damage and eliminations. This is bonkers. 22 kills and spread out second place holding 5. That means they more than quadrupled second place in kills and more than 7 times their damage. Are you kidding? Almost 7 times their damage.
Yeah, I don't see any outlying performances here. I mean, it looks very balanced, right? Super balanced. Aside from a little bit of with a little bit of a side order of those Wheaties coming through. You know, that's why breakfast is so important.
Well, guys, as we said, you know, it all counts on the map to determine the strategy, but let's look at the overall ranking. And yes, understandably, Clips by Chicks has now surpassed the Care Bears with a monumentous lead of 24 points ahead of second place, boasting 55 healthy points. Very impressive. It's going to be a tough one to come back from, to say the least. If anything, basically the rest of the playing field is going to have to target Clips by Chicks early game for anyone to have a shot at that first place prize, it would almost seem. Clips by Chicks boasting a healthy lead. Care Bears in second with 31. Trailing behind them is just shortly 4 points shy, Third Eye in third. And just 3 points behind them is Seren. And that is a fairly competitive second to fourth place bracket.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think, you know, that's maybe where we are going to be taking more of our attention towards, right? Because, yes, we have our monsters, our beasts right there sitting on their 30 eliminations. But, I mean, we got to see what the rest of the teams are going to be bringing, right? Where are we going to have Care Bears, Third Eye, Seren, Dauntless, as well as Dark Esports, right? Where are they going to be looking to push the envelope towards in our remaining matches? Because aside from the coming up Sanhok that we have for today, we still have 3 more matches to go. So there's still a few opportunities for the teams to bring in those additional, well, I want to say adjustments, but I think at this point, if we're being honest, it's maybe going to be those attempts at locking in all the points that they can find.
Yeah, guys, if this was a one-day event, we would probably almost set in our ways in terms of decision here. But guys, we still have 4 more matches to go spread across today and tomorrow. So yeah, anything is still on the table. But as we said, and we keep reiterating because it's so important, each map is special in its own way. A different landscape, a different geography means a different strategy. And while Clips by Chicks has absolutely surpassed expectations in rounds 1 and 2, we're going to be closing the day off with that lush condensed forest of Sanhok. And that means an entirely different strategy. So we'll have to be curious to see who's going to, take that lead here coming round 3. But guys, only time will tell. We're going to be back at you in just a few short moments with round 3 of the PUBG Mobile Campus Championship Finals. Stick around. We'll be back soon. I hope you missed us, ladies and gentlemen, because we have been gone for probably a total of 45 seconds, but we are back. We are back. We are back with the third and final round of the day of the PUBG Mobile Campus Championship Finals, day 1 of 2. So yeah, even after today, we got 3 more matches to go, but we are going to end off today with, of course, the lush condensed forest of Sanhok. DK, what are your initial thoughts?
I mean, it's like someone got onto that thermometer and just said, you know what, match 1, let's turn it up a little bit, right? Match number 2, let's turn it up even more. So I think match 3, they maybe might try to see if they can break it.
I've been casting, even like the tier 1 level, you just don't see 22 kills with 3,500 damage. What we just saw is a real special occasion. And I think our viewers know that, and it's just really a treat to see. But now we are working in to the end of the day, the lush condensed forest of Sanhok. And now what do we need to say about a map like this? It's going to be the smallest map that we've got. Now, technically, Livik, Karakin, and now Noosa are all smaller than that, but this is the comp scene. So this is the smallest map that we're going to be working with, meaning that the odds of two teams landing next to each other is just going to be a bit higher. But as we said, it's the most condensed map. Now, what do I mean when I say condensed? I mean most lush in vegetation. There's more natural cover to take, more grass to hide inside, and more trees and boulders to hide behind. So you need to be alert for a higher than average number of snakes than usual. And the third and final thing to be a polar opposite from our last match in Miramar, this map is so small that it finds itself fairly independent of the flight path, meaning that you can get pretty much anywhere you want on the map by deploying your chute early enough. So it's just coincidence and irony that our participants are left with a fairly centralized path.
Yeah, but I think this is a little bit of trolling, right? Because it's like, you know what? Here, have yourself a nice little bit of a flight path. I think the kicker is definitely going to be that zone, because we've seen a few crazy shifts come through, at least essentially in this first initial stage. So that's what I'm low-key hoping for, to see a little bit of a crazy start. Because, I mean, looking at the level of performance that we've been having out on the battlefield, I think a zone like that would really just heighten these performances even more so.
And you just gotta love it. This is exactly what I was talking about in round one when I spoke about clips by chicks. They like to drop hot. They like to leave that threat out there. It's just like they do on their individual teams when they're like, for instance, Coops on the Pittsburgh Knights. They love to drop in an area where everyone knows they're gonna go. And it is an open invitation to the rest of the map, saying, hey, if you want that challenge, if you want that smoke, you know where we'll be.
Yeah. If you're up for it, right? You know what my number is. Just hit me up.
If you're feeling froggy, come leap. Well, guys, we got a close encounter on our hands here at the Camp Bravo area. It looks to be Strangers BD and the hit list in very close proximity to each other. We see Flash already equipped with that barrel M762. His opponent Volt equipped with that DBS UMP combo. That is a close quarter combat formidable opponent right there. That DBS, as we've seen time and time again in this event, can be one shot between life and death.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes too, right? Depending on the positioning, but it is going to be Revenge now, getting dealt a very quick hit there. Trickster pops on through with a barrel, and this is now that opportunity to set it. But I'm also loving the fact that the zone is splitting this entire Camp Bravo right down the middle. Up comes the utilities, now trying to rain down a little bit of that chaos, but Flash God not really finding the point on that first nade, of course, is now going to try and lock in the second one.
Yeah, his molly was accounting for where Call was, not where Call was gonna be. And while that first nade looked almost promising, it just fell a little bit shy of the mark, dealing out maybe 15% damage, not anything close to enough to feel comfortable with any sort of aggressive push there. All the while, Revenge is able to fall back to his teammates and get to a position of cover. And so, yeah, we are starting off clean. It's as if he didn't do the damage at all. So now here we see Volt X, UMP in hand, just holding position, a little bit spread out from his teammates here. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because it does look to be that his opponents in the hit list are doing a 2-2 split.
I just want to see that that Volt on that flash on flash action to come through. I mean, it's not too often that you see two players with the same name on opposing sides getting ready to face off, right? So I want to see that in the feed. Flash hitting Flash, and that's Flash with a quick flash on Flash, right? That'd be it.
Yeah, they should fight it out, see who gets to keep the name. All right, well, guys, we also have Dark Esports in relatively close proximity, as we said, to Forsaken Gaming, all the while based on Bullet trying to close in on the likes of Nucleotide Vendetta. And here we see Akash with a bit of a high ground over members of Nucleotide Vendetta, but he's got to be careful, because if he's not knowledgeable or aware of his surroundings, he will run into Marioso, and case in point, Marioso just wrecking into him with that AK and a quick thirst to follow.
Yeah, but what I'm loving about what Nucleotide is doing here is it seems like, based on Bullet, are moving and surrounding them, but instead, Nucleotide actually encircling the entirety of based on Bullet. So I'm loving this bait and switch coming through. Now, RV, oh, just sitting there is like, you know what, thank you so much for coming. I'm going to terminate the terminate. And that's it.
And I think this is where Dark Esports needs to just cut the losses. They still have half their team, and so I think that the real move here would probably be to bow out of this altercation, because now they are in a very handicapped match, a 2v4 scenario, and that is not ideal for them by any means. As you can see, Avi, Chills, Marioso, and Karma are already boasting up there, holding position and just ready and waiting for an altercation. Dark Esports Noob still holding position with the opponents in Forsaken Gaming just a little bit of further away, but as you can see, it's at the Painan area, and I've said this time and time again, Painan affords us a very specific kind of altercation more often than not. It's when you find yourselves on opposite sides of this river where these teams will just trade bullets between compounds, and they just end up getting knock after knock, but never able to quite get that thirst. So, you know, it comes down to a real assessment on a case-by-case basis. Is it worth it? Because what are you really doing? You're using up your resources and their resources, your armor and their armor, but are you really making most use of your resources if you're not getting that thirst?
I mean, you were talking about resources, right? We did see the players there from Clips by Chicks taking down the Puppeteers. Of course, it is now going to be the players here from Forsaken who will be caught in a very tough position. Not only do they have Dark Esports on the one side, we also then see Seren moving in from behind. So, yeah, this is such a challenging position to play in. But I'm loving the fact that we are having so many altercations spread throughout this map.
Yeah, as to be expected, you know, with the Sanhok match, we are used to that early confrontation on this map. It's a very, very confrontational one. Oh my goodness, Versa just wrecked in the face by Wolf's nade, just exploding inches away from him. And gosh, if a nade could do more than just a knock, it would be a thirst as well with that one. All the while, we see Nemesis and Mombay really feeling the pressure starting to mount here as the likes of pardon me, as the likes of Gods Reborn closes in on him. All the while, Dark and Forsaken Gaming illustrating that point I just mentioned so well. Opposite sides of the river, just plenty of compound cover afforded to each participant here. It is going to be a trade, but this is a real opportunity for the likes of Seren to utilize an amazing third party here. If they can get an eye on Amrit as he tries to focus in on Pain or Turn, it could be an easy knock.
Yeah, definitely could be a very, very easy knock indeed, but it's all going to come down to what that response will be, because once Seren strike down, they're also then opening up that kind of worms for that response to be dealt in their direction coming through from the players from Forsaken Gaming. But as we look a little bit further on, it is going to be Nucleotide now, just trying to stay somewhat more spread around the players here from Based on Bullet. We did see that super aggressive start coming through from them, but Based on Bullet now actually having had the opportunity to find a little bit of that alleviation towards Nucleotide, right? Reducing their numbers down to 2, and this does really put them on more even ground.
Yeah, and this is kind of interesting to see for several reasons, because this is not just because it is a 2v2 altercation, but because of what a Nucleotide Envy is doing here. They're surrounding their opponent on two sides, which is it's a tactic we see very often, but not as a two-piece. As a two-piece, it comes with a very risky move because, as you said, you can just be taken out and your teammate is not going to be able to get that revive. He's not going to be able to stop you from being thirsted. Even if he does, he's going to have to try to make it to you before you're bled out.
Yeah, I mean, it's super risky business, right? But speaking about risky business, so is, you know, having a bit of a gamble with that potential blue zone that is on the move. Well, it's going to be on the move in just the next few moments. And this is where Dark Esports really need to make that decisive play. Are they going to look to contest the players here from Forsaken for the opposite side of the river? Or are they going to use this opportunity given to them to look to get themselves situated a little bit more securely within the zone?
Yeah, it looks to be the old-fashioned Painan waiting game, but as we can see, only time will tell. But guys, as my co-caster DK did just mention, we have a lot of teams still out there in that blue zone, and that brings to light a specific Sanhok strategy that everyone knows what I'm going to talk about, the infamous heal strat. And for those of you who may be less acquainted with the PUBG Mobile esports scene, the heal strat is very, very prominent on this map specifically. It is where usually one member of a team will hang back out in that dead zone with an absurd number of meds and heals and just heal away time and time again as the numbers dwindle down. Now, it's not the most chivalrous strategy by any means, but you cannot deny its effectiveness. However, having said that, I believe, as we noted last time, it looks like these zones might have been boosted. So that heal strat might not be the ticket here on a match like this.
Yeah, it might be a little bit less considerable to really try and, utilize that strategy. So that is going to force these teams to really get down to business and, get aggressive. But, Dark Esports are going to be playing a little bit of the positioning game, very similar to what we see Forsaken Gaming doing here. But, speaking about the teams out in the blue, right? It is, of course, the Hitless now making a bit of a dash. It is Dauntless. It is the players there from Ace of Spades. We've got several others also still trying to get themselves towards the zone. Balti does seem like they could be considering a bit of that heal strat just based on their positioning. But I sincerely hope that they could be able to find their way back to the rest of the team.
Yeah, if I were to place a bet, I would say the two teams utilizing the heal strat were, as you mentioned, Gods Reborn and then Third Eye. It looks like Bolty and Vortex are straying away from their teams in a bit of a split and just holding out in that dead zone. Now, whether or not this strategy is going to be effective with a boosted zone is yet to be seen. Only time will tell, but all the while, we see the Clips by Chicks crew already aiming in at their opponents and strangers, and it's a takedown vehicle explosion. That boat is gonna blow, and Volt X suffers the consequences at the hands of 24K.
Yeah, but look at the players coming through there from based on Bullet, right? Still going to be holding on to that slight elevation. You got that Tommy and the M4 at the ready, so that could bring in quite an interesting spray from that range. But I don't really see them utilizing it just yet. Instead, I think they might be looking for a bit of an opportunity on towards Strangers BD. But, Volt in such a troubling position. I think it's safe to say that they aren't going to get raised up just yet.
Yeah, and Volt is still thanking his lucky stars regardless of that update a couple months ago, maybe a month ago, or maybe a little more, who knows, where they made it so you can actually swim while knocked. That could have been his saving grace potentially, but unfortunately for him, 24K is not going to afford him that luxury in the least. And look at this, guys, Clips by Chicks, only 12 minutes into the match, already boasting 8 kills and still a full 4-piece. This is the point we have been making throughout the entirety of today. Such a kill-intensive team. They seem to fear nothing. They fear no altercation, and they are actively seeking out the blood.
I think it's very, very correct for me to say that the only fear they have is on their team already,
yeah.
Right? So they have nothing else to fear.
Yeah. Well, guys, getting eyes on Third Eye as they try to hold position against the likes of Seren. Seren trying to work their way in from the dead zone. Whether or not they are aware of the Third Eye boys is yet to be seen. But as you can see, Butcher and Tins making a very risky move, utilizing a vehicle on Sanhok. And now on a map this small, that's a risky move to be letting your noise. This is a lot louder than a footstep. They are going to hear your motor fairly early in advance. And case in point, SUK able to put on a nice spray on him. He had a good idea of where they were before he even saw him. And his teammate Gunda firing away with that 3x M4, dealing out significant damage there. Ooh, all the while in the distance, Dauntless facing off against Gods Reborn.
Yeah, well, let's see whether or not Butcher are going to try and stay true to their name as the opportunity is coming in, of course. Now, Seren so close to the edge of zone, but of course, then the players from Third Eye still having to try and cover that distance. But I'm loving where the zone is moving towards, right? Blue zone going to constrict up onto our players once again, and we'll see what they're going to have to deal with moving into this 4th phase. And it is going to be absolute carnage as it now centers up on towards boot camp, a position in which the Clips by Chicks team are so comfortable.
Yeah, and if if there was any team that really did not need optimum positioning at this point, it would probably be them. So that is just icing on the cake in their eyes. But it was really good that we actually got to have that previous perspective of the player in the dead zone. Why? Because we were able to assess that zone damage as it stands. It was at about the 13-minute mark, and you could already see it chipping away at the health. So yes, I do think we are dealing with a boosted zone damage map.
Yeah, it does seem to be the case. And now, of course, speaking about the damage, right? It is going to be just by Chicks now looking to get themselves perched on the elevation here, looking down on boot camp already, dealing quite a bit of a hit down on towards the players there from Road to Death. But we've got so many other teams also now moving through. We see Nemesis just flying on by, looking to secure themselves up into center zone. And then it's going to be Carnage. Just Ace of Spades are met with Fears just letting loose.
Yeah, and this is kind of that difference in strategy. As you can see, the Road to Death crew holding position in the compounds of boot camp and just holding there, but currently boasting 0 kills to their name. So they are, as we said, are doing sort of that long haul approach, the bit more conservative strategy, where I'm assuming that they are going to try to utilize a more aggressive tactic come in game and try to really utilize those kills in the end. But all the while, we see Gods Reborn taking a blunt load of damage there and getting quite a bit of a conundrum on their hands as one of their members is taken out early. All the while, Skills of Mine facing off against the round 1 winners of the Care Bears, and Bomba is caught on fire. He is just burning up his health. All the while, we see Wolf trying to hold position, being taken on by a... Oh, goodness, pardon me. Was that a mini that he was up against? No, it was the M4, single tapping an M4. I was like, what was going on there for a minute? I didn't think the mini was a Sanhok map gun, so let's just get back into it. Ronnie is able to come in and save the day and get the revive on his fallen teammate. Clips by Chicks holding position in a not a 2-2 split. Their teammates are coming to rejoin as a singular unit here. Coops holding position on the cliff edge, firing away, not getting a lot of connecting damage there, but talk about being in a comfortable position.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't have asked for a more pleasing situation. Now, of course, that zone not going to be moving too far away from them, so that will allow even more continuation for the strategy from the side of Clips by Chicks. But looking up into bootcamp itself, I mean, Road to Death now trying to secure at least that eastern part. They got Godlin on the opposite side of the road here, just perched on the pot, waiting to see what Dauntless is going to bring.
Yeah, Godlin is, he's making a little bit of a risky position here. But yes, in terms of Dauntless, he could catch a nice surprise angle. Oh, Amaret is just eliminated by Forsaken Gaming. And talk about a team who had a little bit of ground to make up. Forsaken Gaming having a little bit more of a rough go in round 1 and able to really kind of catch their footing here as they move into round 3. Dauntless Dogway being taken down, relying on Faker and Tigress to try to carry on the name and maybe even stick a revive. Mombay once again the last hope here for Ace of Spades. Can he do it? Can he carry on the team name and get those placement points? Only time will tell.
Yep, only time will tell indeed. But it's going to be Ronnie here now trying to make it so challenging for Dauntless to not only get themselves out of that compound, but also that much closer towards the zone. Of course, it's allowing a great opportunity now for the Care Bears just to ride on through over towards that western side. But Skills of Mind will bid their farewells as they get sent away to the lobby. Now, Road to Death having to do so much work, loving the spread coming through here, but it's going to be Dauntless now getting down and dirty as they sneak their way closer to that zone.
Yeah, this is going to illuminate a great point about Sanhok. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, seems to be the trend in PUBG Mobile, as the zone gets smaller, real estate becomes imperative and stuff. But at the same time, on a map like Sanhok, rotating too early into that final zone and getting that central position can actually be your undoing. And Road to Death is sort of seeing that right now as they're finding themselves sandwiched between the likes of Dauntless and the Hitless.
Yeah, that's definitely not a list that you want to be on, but it is going to be Dauntless now still trying to find a bit of an approach here. I mean, Clips by Chicks already sitting on 12 eliminations to their name. Just absolutely breaking the expectations here once again. But it's going to be Dogway now getting hit out in the grass. As we can see, it is going to be Flash and Trickster. I'm trying to pick up that trade. Jason keeping a very steady angle towards that eastern side, waiting to see what Dogway is going to bring on through. I mean, when I talk about a tough position, this is exactly what all these teams are now having to deal with.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, but Dogway really was taking a gamble with that positioning. He was trying to utilize the natural cover that he had, the grass, but unfortunately the hit list was already fairly aware of his positioning. Well, guys, case in point, back to the Clips by Chicks crew, they are not just the leading forerunners in terms of damage and kills, but they are also the final four-piece team, the last full team that we have in this match.
Ooh,
And caster cursed.
I mean that's
Judge
fine,
take
right?
them.
It's fine. It has to happen at some point, right? They can't be monsters all the way. Well, they probably could, but I mean,
Yeah.
Let's hope for the rest of the teams.
Let's remember what happened in the semifinals. They entered the Erangel match in semifinals as a three-piece and won with upwards of 2,400 damage. So yeah, even as a three-piece, they are extremely formidable and absolutely not to be underestimated.
Well, let's see what Trickster's going to do now. Tries to send out a bit of that nade damage, but instead we do see that absolute absurd amount of damage now being dealt on to Ronnie, as it is going to be the players there from Forsaken trying to fight their way back into the zone. The Hitless now trying to make that run, but Flash gets down. Off they go. Coops, of course, greeting them with a beautiful spray down. Now Trickster just ducking into some hard cover, but there's not a lot of options. I mean, looking at Chicks by Clips, or Clips by Chicks, wrong way around, holding on to that compound, holding on to the zone, and just leveraging the positioning to their favor.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Trickster is just he did not have a lot of opportunity afforded to him, and Clips before Chicks just absolutely utilizing every bit of aggression that they can, not afraid to take on any of these fights. And you can see it, Jason, with the last hope for Road to Death, and it was all for naught as Clips before Chicks just comes in and rains absolute mayhem. Look at this again, 20 eliminations with again breaking the 3,000 damage marker. What are we actually seeing today?
I mean, we are seeing insanity unfold out on the battlefield. I mean, that was just crazy to see. But I'm pretty sure we know exactly who our MVP is yet again. I mean, we are going to be taking a look at that momentarily. But, I mean, Clips by Chicks just on another level, right?
Yeah.
As you said, it is like, well, as I said before, it's like that fantasy football team, like putting an insane combination of players together. And that's what we have now out on the battlefield. I mean, having 24K Coops, Judges, and Fears there, I mean, that is just, it's such a formidable force.
Yeah, they're all, if this was a draft football league, those guys are all first round picks. Absolutely monumentous, breaking that 3,000 damage marker. I was left almost speechless in round 2, and then to do it again, making it maybe the third or fourth time I've seen, something to that extent. That's very impressive. And once again, Coops responsible for almost half of the team's kills. In this case, exactly half of the team's kills, making him the obvious MVP of the match, boasting 1,128 damage. And as we mentioned previously, what does that mean? He knows how to utilize that damage. Last round, he had almost twice as much damage as kills. This time, he makes real use. That conversion rate is nice. That means he only dealt an extra 128 damage that did not amount to a kill.
I mean, that's insane. And of course, now speaking about insanity, it is going to be Clips by Chicks being our MVP once again, our most valued team. So, I mean, what is there left to say? This combination of players, it's just so crazy.
But here is what I'm okay with it, and here's why. Actually, we'll go into it in just a moment. As I said, head-to-head, we got Forsaken up against Road to Death. Let's have a look-see. We got Forsaken Gaming holding a nice, healthy 7 kills with 1,173 damage. Just trailing shortly behind them is going to be the Road to Death crew with 5 kills and 995. And as you can see, Road to Death did have more assists, but that is not quite enough, is it? And they did survive relatively very, very close amount of time. Well, Forsaken Gaming surviving for just 3 seconds longer, but as we have seen time and time again, especially in our last head-to-head, 3 seconds longer of survival time can make all the difference.
Oh, yes.
But what I was going to say is I'm okay with Clips before Chicks taking this extreme lead because we are having payouts all the way from the 2nd place down to like the 7th or 8th place, 6th or 7th place maybe. So this is still a very, very competitive event. While we might have a healthy 2,300 first place prize, the prizes are still very, very, very nice as we move further down the bracket.
Yeah, I mean, it's 1,800, 1,500, 900, 800, 700 or something like that, or 700 and... Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the exact numbers for 4th or for 5th and 6th place, but yeah, I mean, it's still looking very, very healthy. So it is going to be quite a bit of a fight, though, for that 2nd to 7th position, or 6th position, rather, to see where the teams are going to finish up.
Yeah, talking about throwing slack out into the water, clips by chicks or clips before chicks, they're written down as 2 different ways here for me. But in the case that they have a bad match tomorrow, in the case that they have 2 bad matches tomorrow, they have afforded themselves a very handsome cushion here, boasting 90 points. That is literally 50 points almost ahead of Care Bears, who have a total of 41. But as we mentioned earlier, this 2nd place down to, in this case, the 8th place bracket is... Let me rephrase it. The 3rd place down to about the 7th place bracket, it's only separated by about 12 points. So it can get fairly competitive in that region. Care Bears are holding a nice, healthy 7-point lead over 3rd place, but that can be undone in the likes of one match.
Yeah, 100% agree with you on that one. And I mean, it's still very competitive all the way, even to 8th place, right? I mean, that whole entire shift between 3rd and 8th can happen within tomorrow's games very, very easily, based on what we've been seeing come through from our teams situated on that right-hand side.
Yeah, you know, it's just... matches like this are just such outliers, but when you have them, you have to just go ahead and say it. For Clips by Chicks to really undo the amount of progress that they put forth today, it would almost take a unified effort from other teams saying, hey, let's just make an agreement. We know where they're going to land. Somebody's got to be the one to drop in and try to take them out early. And it is not an easy task by any means, as we have seen time and time again. 2 games in a row exceeding the 3,000 damage mark, over 20 kills. My mind is just, you don't know what to say in a situation like that. This is a extreme treat to actually have gotten to witness.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. It's so satisfying seeing such a runaway performance come through. But I mean, this now makes it exciting to see what tomorrow's going to bring, because we know that the teams, aside from, you know, the Clips by Chicks team, they all... We've seen them in the previous seasons of the campus championship, right? We've seen what these teams are capable of, and then I'm waiting to see what they are going to be bringing in response to this performance from the Clips by Chicks, right? Are they going to be able to put a bit of a stop to that, right? Are they going to focus a collective effort to try and stop the advances, right? Could tomorrow be that day in which we see a team like Ace of Spades rising to the occasion, right? Just bringing in a kind of a repeat from what we saw on their semifinals.
Yeah, the hit list, absolutely. And Ace of Spades both putting up very impressive performances in the semifinals. But, you know, when you come down to what the Clips by Chicks crew has done here, you have to wonder, can you flip the script? What is they going to be like coming into tomorrow? Is that gun barrel still going to be smoking? Are they going to be able to ride that momentum moving forward? Or is it going to, because when you have this healthy of a lead, that confidence has to be bordering on cockiness at this point. And as we've seen time and time again, cockiness can be one's undoing. It would be pretty tough to undo at this stage, but nonetheless, we have seen these absolute upsets before. We have seen the tides shift in the course of a day. And yeah, while Clips by Chicks did get well rested, and while they may have had their Wheaties for breakfast today, that does not mean that they're going to be, you know, having their zone all together tomorrow. It'd be pretty impressive to see that upset, someone surpassing that in the matter of 3 matches. But even if not, ladies and gentlemen, as we said, it's completely not taking away from the level of competition. Everyone still has their eye on a prize because the top 7, I believe, are being paid out in here and being paid out handsomely, with the 7th place somewhere in the $700 range. You cannot argue with those numbers. That is money on the mind for these participants.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very interesting finish, definitely coming through tomorrow. I mean, that 4th place, of course, being worth $900, 5th place, $800, and 6th place, as you said, the $700. So regardless of where these teams finish up, there is going to be a nice, healthy reward waiting for them at the end, right? But I think the important thing to look at here is it going to be likely for Care Bears, Third Eye, or even Seren to try and bring that insane performance on through, right? Because securing 90 points in a day, yes, that is absolutely crazy. But if we see a strong response coming in, that could be sufficient for Care Bears to try and close the gap, right? Because they're only 49 points away. I mean, yes, only 49 points, but if it works out across the 3 games, we could see potentially a team like Care Bears trying to contest against the level of performance that Clip by Chicks has already brought in today.
Yeah, absolutely. At least one of these teams is going to have to play David to the Goliath that is Clipped by Chicks. But guys, as we said, we have only entered the halfway point now. We still have another day of action, mayhem, and strategy. 3 more matches still to go. Another Erangel, another Miramar, and another Sanhok await us tomorrow. But we're just left on the edge of our seat today, just speechless with the performances that we have seen today, and I cannot wait for tomorrow as we move into the final day, day 2 of the PUBG Mobile Campus Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been Red Eyes. This is my main man DK, and we cannot wait to see you tomorrow for day 2 of the PUBG Mobile Campus Championship. We'll be back same time, same place. See you then.
헤어나올 수 없어 한참 동안 널 바라보면 I feel like I'm in an ocean